Your alarm rings on Monday morning, and a heavy, suffocating dread instantly fills your chest. You tell yourself it is just because you hate your job, or because you stayed up too late over the weekend. You assume you are simply lazy, undisciplined, or tired. But the real answer is far stranger, and it has nothing to do with your alarm clock. That sudden weight you feel at the start of the week is actually a ghost signal from a world that existed long before offices, schedules, or calendars. For 99% of human history, your ancestors never experienced a Monday. They had no concept of a 7-day cycle, no weekends, and no designated days of rest. Instead, human life flowed in organic, undulating rhythms dictated by the rising sun, changing seasons, and the immediate needs of the tribe. You worked when there was food to hunt or forage, and you rested deeply when the belly was full or the winter storms rolled in. The pacing of daily life was entirely autonomous, deeply communal, and intricately tied to your internal biological clock. When you wake up on Monday, your modern environment forces a violent, artificial fracture upon this ancient programming. The transition from the relative freedom of the weekend to the rigid constraints of the work week mimics a profound existential threat to your primitive brain. In the wild, a sudden forced change in your daily routine and social structure meant only one thing. Your tribal band was fracturing, resources were scarce, or you were being forced into a position of submission within a hostile hierarchy. Your brain reacts to the corporate calendar and in the exact same way it would react to an aggressive territorial displacement. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, trying to alert you that something is profoundly wrong with your environment. You are not lazy, you are simply trapped in a time cage that your biology was never designed to endure, mourning a lost freedom you cannot quite name. To understand why your body fiercely rejects the start of the week, you must examine the invisible cage that surrounds it. The 7-day week feels like a fundamental law of nature, as permanent as gravity or the tide, but it is a complete fabrication. Look up at the sky. There is a solar cycle for the year, a lunar cycle for the month, and a planetary rotation that dictates the day. But there is absolutely no celestial, biological, or ecological rhythm that naturally aligns with a continuous 7-day loop. The sociologist Eviatar Zerubavel extensively mapped this in his historical research on time, demonstrating that the 7-day week is one of the most successful mathematical fictions ever forced onto the human mind. It is a completely unnatural rhythm, invented historically for market coordination and astrological superstition, that somehow conquered the entire modern globe. Your ancient brain was never wired to count days in abstract sets of 7. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors tracked time through tangible sensory cues. You watched the moon wax and wane. You felt the subtle shifts in the morning frost. You tracked the predictable migrations of seasonal herds. Time was fluid, elastic, and tied strictly to biological necessity and natural daylight. You exerted intense, explosive energy when a hunt or harvest was required, and you rested deeply and without guilt when the immediate labor was done. Work and rest were not scheduled on a calendar. They were simply lived. Then came the dawn of the industrial era. Suddenly, the organic flow of human existence was overwritten by mechanical clocks, factory whistles, and arbitrary production quotas. The modern work week was explicitly designed to standardize human behavior. By breaking time into rigid, predictable blocks, early systems of industry could synchronize millions of bodies to function exactly like gears in a massive, lifeless machine. The 2 days of weekend rest were eventually conceded, not out of a deep respect for human biological needs, but simply to prevent the labor force from collapsing entirely under the weight of continuous exhaustion. So when that Monday alarm sounds, you are not just waking up to a new morning. Your biology is colliding violently with an artificial mathematical grid that it fundamentally cannot read. It is a schedule built for maximum industrial output, completely ignoring the ancient, pulsing rhythms buried deep inside your own DNA. The dread you experience does not actually begin on Monday morning. It starts the evening before, creeping in just as the sun begins to set on Sunday. This phenomenon is often dismissed as simple anticipatory anxiety, but its roots trace back to a massive psychological shift in how humans relate to one another. Anthropologist Marshall Sahlins famously discovered that ancient hunter-gatherer societies rarely worked more than 3 to 4 hours a day to meet all their survival needs. The rest of their time was spent in unstructured leisure, storytelling, and tribal bonding. More importantly, their work was completely collaborative and autonomous. You did not report to a manager who monitored your efficiency. You did not have to suppress your personality to fit into a rigid corporate culture. You operated as an equal member of a tight-knit band, where your survival was directly tied to the collective success of people who genuinely knew and trusted. When Sunday night arrives, your subconscious mind fully realizes that this natural state of human autonomy is about to be stripped away for the next 5 days. You are about to transition from an environment where you control your actions, your movements, and your social interactions into a rigid hierarchy where your time is owned by someone else. In the ancestral world, losing control over your time and schedule only happened under catastrophic circumstances, such as being captured by a rival tribe or facing severe social ostracization. Your nervous system interprets the upcoming work week as a period of prolonged captivity. The Sunday night blues are not a psychological weakness. They are an evolutionary survival alarm, a deep-seated dread warning you that you are about to step out of your natural tribal freedom and back into a state of voluntary submission. Think about your own life and the invisible weight of this cycle. If society suddenly transitioned to a 4-day work week, or if you had complete control over your own daily schedule, do you think your Sunday night anxiety would completely vanish? Or is the modern concept of structured labor permanently broken for human biology? Let me know in the comments below what your Sunday nights feel like. This mismatch between your ancient biology and the modern calendar is not just a psychological illusion. It is a measurable biological trauma known as social jet lag. Chronobiologist Till Roenneberg coined this term to describe the severe discrepancy between your body's natural internal clock and the artificial schedule forced upon you by society. During the weekend, you sleep and wake according to your unique biological preference, or chronotype. Your circadian rhythm relaxes into its natural state. But when Monday arrives, you abruptly shift your sleep schedule by 2, 3, or even 4 hours to accommodate the corporate clock. To your brain, this sudden shift is functionally identical to boarding a supersonic jet on Sunday night and flying across multiple time zones. You are forcing your internal organs to adapt to a completely new reality overnight, causing profound metabolic and neurological chaos. Your ancestors possessed sophisticated internal mechanisms to track time and maintain homeostasis, anchored entirely by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock in your brain. This tiny bundle of cells relies on natural morning sunlight to synchronize every biological process in your body, from your digestion to your immune response. Modern society actively exploits and breaks this ancestral tracking mechanism. You spend your days under artificial fluorescent lighting that mimics perpetual midday, and your evenings staring at blue-lit screens that trick your brain into thinking the sun has never set. When you disrupt this delicate system every single Monday morning, your body enters a state of chronic low-grade inflammation. Your focus plummets, your emotional regulation fractures, and your risk for cardiovascular disease skyrockets. The exhausting fatigue you feel is not a personal failure of willpower. It is the physiological cost of forcing a prehistoric primate to endure a weekly cycle of chronological whiplash just to maintain a modern economy. Tonight, when you lay your head down to sleep, the cycle will loom over you once again. You will look at your phone, set your alarm for the morning, and feel that familiar, quiet ache of a weekend slipping away. But now you know the truth. You are not a lazy worker failing to adapt to a standard routine. You are an evolutionary marvel being asked to live inside an artificial cage. The system wants you to believe that your exhaustion and anxiety are personal flaws that can be fixed with a better diet, a stronger cup of coffee, or a fresh wave of self-discipline. But those are just modern band-aids hiding a much deeper structural mismatch between your biology and your environment. When you look around at the millions of other people dragging themselves into the weekly grind, remember that this collective exhaustion is a shared rebellion of the human spirit. Your body is remembering what it feels like to be truly free. Until you find ways to reclaim small pockets of your own natural time, autonomy, and rhythm, that Monday morning alarm will continue to ring not as a call to productivity, but as a reminder of the ancient world you left behind.